mode.
Good afternoon. Welcome today to today's Mini MBA for Dentists preview webinar. I'm Leon Fraser, the Managing Director of Executive Education for Rutgers Business School. I'm very pleased that you took time out today. I know you're very busy. We hope to have a great presentation, and I anticipate that we'll be able to provide you with information that is both stimulating and actionable. We're very pleased to collaborate with the New Jersey Dental Association, and we thank them for providing this opportunity to speak to you today. There are three parts to today's presentation. First, I will give you an overview about the Mini MBA for Dentists program. Second, digital marketing expert Mike Moran will give you a preview of the program addressing the topic, Are New Patients Finding You Online? And third, we will open the presentation up for questions at the end. Before we get into the content, let me review some of the mechanics of the webinar. As I'm presenting slides and as Mr. Moran is presenting slides, you can use GoToWebinar to ask a question. That orange arrow opens and closes your controls. If you have a question, simply type it into the box labeled questions at any time during the event and press the send button. During the presentations, I will accumulate the questions, then select some questions at the end during our question and answer period. I also want to point out that this webinar is being recorded, so if you missed part of it or want to review it later, we will email to you a web link later this week. The recording will also be posted on the NJDA website for a limited time period. By way of background, Rutgers Business School is one of Rutgers University's 33 schools and colleges in the state of New Jersey. We offer both degree and certificate programs on our New Brunswick and Newark campuses. With regard to degrees, we offer the BS, MBA, and PhD degrees, as well as other degrees. On the executive education side, we offer training such as the Mini MBA in Business Essentials, the Mini MBA in Digital Marketing, and the Mini MBA in Strategic Healthcare Management, just to name a few. Earlier this year, one of your NJDA colleagues, Dr. Clifford Listman, suggested to Rutgers, why don't you create a Mini MBA specifically for dentists? Do a program that would address their particular needs and provide them practice management skills that are specific to them. Consequently, we met with Art Mizell, your NJDA Executive Director, and we collaborated with him to develop this program that is just for you. This program is offered in 8 3-hour sessions in spring 2014 and fall 2014. The spring sessions are certain Saturday mornings from March to May on the Rutgers Business School Newark campus. The fall sessions are offered certain Wednesday mornings on the Rutgers Business School campus in Piscataway. They are not consecutive weekends or weeks. We do allow time off for office appointments or for you to take care of personal business or for recreation. Each 9 a.m. to noon session is preceded by a 45-minute networking full breakfast. As I said before, the content is geared specifically for you, and if that were not enough, it is presented by top-rated Rutgers Business School professors who have real business world experience, as well as subject matter experts who practice dentistry or who deal with dentistry issues each and every day. So let me quickly go through the presenters and the topics. The first module, as you can see, is Healthcare Economics and Insurance. We have the Executive Director of NADP, who is a true expert on reimbursement as well as Obamacare. She's going to come in from Dallas. The second module, Business Finance and Financial Markets, is taught by John Longo, who's a Rutgers Business School professor. He's also a Chief Investment Officer at a hedge fund. The third module is Personal Finance and Financial Planning, taught by A.J. Kasif. He's with the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors. And the great thing is, it's going to be an objective presentation and he won't be selling anything. Module 4 is Business Law, Protection Strategies, is taught by John Little, who is both a practicing dentist and an attorney. Module 5, Procurement for Small Business, is taught by Professor Lyons. He's the former Chief Procurement Officer at Rutgers University. Our 6th module is Accounting for Small Business, taught by Rutgers Business School Professor Dan Stubbs, who is a CPA. We have Traditional Marketing and Advertising, taught by Mark Kalin, a Rutgers Business School Professor, who has many years of practical business experience at marketing professional firms, promotion firms. And Module 8 is by Mike Moran, President of Mike Moran Group, who is our speaker today. Let me give you just a little bit of background on Mike. He's on the faculty of Rutgers as well as President of the Mike Moran Group. He's a well-known expert in all things digital marketing. He's the founder of Biznology blog and is the senior strategist of Conversion, a leading social consultancy. Mike is the co-author of Search Engine Marketing and is the sole author of Do It Wrong Quickly, How the Web Changes the Old Marketing Rules. Mike is a veteran of IBM and of managing groups in IBM.com for 8 years, and he retired from IBM in 2008 as a distinguished engineer. And he does speaking engagements literally all around the world. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Mike, who will give you a taste of what he's going to do in the mini MBA classroom. His topic today is, Are New Patients Finding You Online? Mike?
Thanks, Leon. It's great to be here, and thanks everybody for taking time out of your busy day. So what everybody wants to know in marketing is how to get new customers. And when you're a dentist, what you're really trying to do is to get new patients. Now, if you think about no matter what it is that you do, dentistry or any other specialty, you're not specializing in marketing. You don't know that much about marketing necessarily. You have a successful practice because you're a really good dentist. And that's really where you need to spend your time and really need to spend your hours thinking about all the kinds of continuing education you need. But what we want to talk about today is the business side of what you do. We need to think about how you're going to have a successful business because, as we all know, there are many good dentists that don't have successful practices, and we don't want that to happen to you. So if you think about how new patients find you, I mean, if you think about what the purpose is of marketing, it's to get new patients to come in the door. I mean, your skills as a dentist is going to keep existing patients, but the new patients will come in. Why? Well, a lot of it will be because they get recommendations from other patients and other practitioners. And I'm sure you know that. I know you probably give recommendations to your patients to see other practitioners. I'm sure you know that other patients refer you. So you know those things already. But the question you might want to ask yourself is that the only way that you want to get new patients? Do you want to rely on that being the only form of new patients coming in the door? Or would you rather be in a situation where that's just one of the ways that new patients will find you? And so if you think about in your own life, you often get recommendations. And you might think, well, if it's something as important as a medical situation, I'm always going to get recommendations. And that's probably true for you because you're connected to so many people in the medical community that no matter what kind of medical need you have, you probably know someone to ask if you don't, in fact, know the person you want to go to. But all of your patients are not in that business. And so they don't have the same network you do to get recommendations. And so maybe you should think about how you find people in other walks of life. So what would happen if you needed to clean out the chimney or get the gutters taken care of or your air conditioner broke down? You might be able to get recommendations from other people, but you might not. And what you might do is you might turn to Google. More and more, this is how people figure out who they're going to look at when they're trying to figure out what some kind of service that they need. And so you might want to ask yourself, what happens when people just type in dentist? What are they going to find? Are they going to find you? And you might think that people don't search for just the word dentist. You might say to yourself, well, no, they're going to search for dentist in a particular city at least. And that used to be true. And many people still do search for that. But the truth is that when I took this screenshot, I was actually in Michigan. And I just typed in the word dentist, and look what was found for me. What was found is all sorts of the people who are local to the area I was in. Now, how did Google know they were there? How did Google know that I was there? Well, these are the kinds of things that we're going to learn in the course. So Google actually understands where people are when they're searching. And so even though it used to be that they had to search for more than just the word dentist to find something interesting, now they can just type in dentist and it tells people exactly who's around them. And so your question might be, well, how does my website break into this list? And that's actually the right question to ask. How do you show up here when people are searching? Whether it's that they're searching for dentist and they happen to be in the area that you're in, or they actually add the name of your city. They search for dentist Newark, New Jersey, or whatever it is that they're looking for. How do you get in this list? Because you want your website to be here. I'm guessing that all of you have websites already. If you don't, you already know that that's something you need to do. But that's really what you want. You want your website to show up here. But the question is, are any websites showing up here? And the truth is that in this situation, there are no dentist websites that are showing up. What's actually showing up is directories of dentists. And so then your question would be, is your practice listed in any of these directories? So because if people search for dentist and a directory comes up and then they click on it, then the next question is, are you at the top of the directory list? And the other question is, are you using paid search? So are you buying ads from Google to show up on this screen? If you're not going to be shown in any of these places. And if you look at the screenshot, most of the territory here is actually ads. They're people paying. And you might say to yourself, well, I don't think that people click on the ads. I personally don't click on ads, you might say to yourself. But here's the truth. 25% of searches get a click on an ad. So a lot of people are clicking on the ads. And here's another way you can prove to yourself that a lot of people are clicking on the ads. Google makes no money on search except when people click on ads. And with the billions and billions of dollars that Google's making, you know that what's really happening here is that people are clicking on the ads all the time. And so even though you might not think that ads are terribly trustworthy, the searchers actually do. And so if you're not paying for ads here, and I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying if you're not paying for ads here, you're not going to show up in this space either. So we've already shown that there are directories where you may or may not show up. There are ads where you won't be showing up if you're not paying. So what's left on the screen? Well, it's this little map. Now, who shows up on the map? Well, the people who show up on the map are the ones who have actually done something called claiming their listing. This is called local search. So it's showing locations on a map of local businesses, in this case, dental practices. Now, you will not show up very easily if you haven't gone in and made sure that all of your information is accurate. So just as when the Yellow Pages comes out, you need to have made sure ahead of time that the phone company has your correct address for you to show up in a White Pages listing. The same thing's true here, that you need to make sure that Google has your correct address, that Google has things like your hours of operation, that Google has your phone number correct, because Google has its own directory in here. And so if you don't have your information updated, then you're not going to show up on this list, or inaccurate information will show up in this list. Now, what happens if you scroll down on that results page? We didn't have enough room in the screenshot to show it, but if you scroll down, you know what you see here? More local results. More people whose sites are coming up, not necessarily their website, but if you look at this list, almost a couple of them are websites. But the other things that are in the list, if you see all the ones that say plus.google.com, these are actually people who have a Google Plus page for their practice. So the question is, do you have one of those? And if you don't, you can bet that it's much harder to break into this listing. There are a couple of websites here, but most of what's in here are Google Plus pages. These are all the kinds of things we're going to talk about when we go through the course, because there are many different parts of digital marketing that actually all add up to you being found by new patients. Now, one thing you might say is, well, you know, I looked at the page and I'm a little depressed because my practice isn't actually showing up for any of this stuff. No local stuff, I'm not buying ads, I'm not in the directories, or I'm in the directory but I'm really low down. I don't have a Google Plus page. All these kinds of things make it harder for people to find you. And so what's happening here is Google over many years has figured out when people search for dentist, this is what they're looking for. They're looking for a map of locations. They want to see the ads for particular dentists. They want to get a directory of dentists. These are the kinds of things that Google has figured out over time people want. And so that's what they show. So this is really the right stuff in terms of content for the term dentist. And if you don't have that stuff for your practice, you don't have any chance of showing up. And you might say, well, Google isn't the only search engine. There's Bing, too. That Microsoft has that search engine. And that's a good point because 30% of the searches are actually on Bing and only 70% on Google in the United States. But here's the thing. Bing's the same way. Here's the paid search ad. If you don't have paid search ads running on Bing, you don't show up here. Here's the local search stuff. If you don't have your directory information correct in Bing, if you haven't claimed your listing in Bing, so you claim it in Google, you claim it in Bing, they're both directories, they're both different companies. You have to make sure the information's updated in both places. You wouldn't show up here in Bing. And look what the results are. More directories. Maybe even the same directories that Google brought up, but maybe they're different ones. But these are the directories that are important to make sure that you're in and that you're going to be ranked high. And so these are the kinds of places that people look when they're looking for a dentist and they don't have a recommendation. But you might go back to the thing you thought in the beginning, which is, okay, I get that, but the truth is the vast majority of my patients come in because of recommendations. Now, there's two possibilities behind that. One is that your patients will not search in Google for a dentist, and you're going to get all your patients from recommendations. The other possibility is that you're so missing in action when it comes to online that you're not getting any of these searchers that would come any other way except through a recommendation. So it isn't that your patients won't search, it's that you don't show up and so they don't come in. But even if you're still skeptical, even if you don't think patients are searching for dentist, what do you think that patients do when someone does recommend you? Do you think they just jot down your phone number, call, and come in? Some do, but many do something else. They maybe search for your name to try and find something out about you online, or maybe all they got is your name, and they're searching for you because they're using Google as a phone book, so they can just get your phone number. Now, maybe they put your name in, and maybe you have a unique name, and that comes up pretty easily, but maybe you have a fairly common name, and so they have to add the word dentist, or maybe they add your location. And then what do they get? They get a lot of the same kinds of things we just saw. Now, this particular dentist has a Google Plus page, and that came up right away. But where's her website? It's actually not here. Look what's over on the right. That's her local search results. So she evidently has her address and her phone number in the listing. So that's good. She has a Google Plus page. That's good. Look at all these other things. They're review sites. What does that mean? That means that people are going to be checking and looking at reviews that patients have given your practice in the past. And have you looked at these sites? Do you even know what kinds of reviews you've gotten? So these are all questions you need to ask yourself, because this is how the patient is actually deciding whether they're going to follow the recommendation that they got. And what happens if you click on one of those review sites? Is this the image that you want? Right? You have to ask yourself that. This might be fine, but do you think after looking at the review site that the patient would be confident enough to continue to call? The original idea was that I got recommended by my friend Shirley and now I'm going to call, but after they look at the review site, will they still want to call? Now the other question you should be asking yourself is, do you have a specialty? Now you might say, well, yeah, but even my spouse can't spell maxillofacial. And it's like, well, here's the deal. They actually don't need to know how to spell it, because look what Google and Bing do for you. If you can even type the first few letters of it, it starts to suggest things to you. And so you then don't have to know how to spell it. What you can do is you can just start the search, and then Google will suggest it, and then it will find the right word. And so even if you think you've got specialties that have really hard to spell words in it, or words that you think people don't know, those are really important things to put in because it differentiates you from the other dentists. It's a lot easier if someone is actually looking for someone with a maxillofacial specialty for you to show up than if they're just looking for dentist. But maybe you don't have that kind of specialty. Maybe you haven't been licensed by the state to do anything more special than general dentistry. But are there some kinds of specialties that you really could develop, things that aren't licensed by the state? This in marketing is called differentiation. How can you differentiate yourself from all the other dentists out there? So do you have a special touch with children? Or do you know a lot more about how to deal with pregnant women than maybe another dentist? Or with the elderly and the problems that they have? Or the handicapped? My son, I have 4 kids. My oldest son has Down syndrome. And not only is he fearful of the dentist, which is a whole nother group, but he is mentally handicapped. And we at times have had to go to a specialty dentist, and that's what they specialize in. Think about the kinds of things you're good at. Are there things that kind of set you apart, that differentiate you for a particular audience? So you could have a licensed specialty. That's really important. But maybe you have something that's unlicensed that you're just really good at. Can you build up your marketing in that area as well? So in the end, it's all about your practice. Who are your ideal patients, and how do they find you? How can you put yourself out there so that you are discoverable, so that you are findable, so that when people are looking for you online, that they are going to find you? That's all I've got, Leon. I'm sure that we've got some questions, and I'd love to take some now.
Mike, that's terrific. In fact, the questions for both of us, but I really do appreciate the very enlightening presentation. Obviously, what you did today is only a small portion of what dentists need to know, and thankfully, you'll be elaborating on it during the MBA for Dentist program, along with the 7 other speakers. Mike, there is one question that says, how can one start to comprehend the many review sites that there are? I guess more generally, I guess they're looking for advice on how to evaluate vendors that may lead them to those sites. Will your presentation cover that?
Absolutely. I think one of the fastest ways for you to do it is for you to start doing some searches yourself and seeing which review sites come up. Right? Those would probably be the most important, right? So search for dentist in your area, use dentist in the name of your city, search for yourself, see what kinds of sites are coming up, search for your specialty, right? So if your specialty is orthodontia, then search for orthodontist in the name of your city, right? So look at all the different possibilities for searches that make sense for your practice and look to see which review sites come up. In a perfect world, you would love to have a good listing and great reviews on every site. But, we're not going to live in a perfect world. So the way to prioritize is for you to see which sites seem to be coming up, and you want to recheck this every once in a while and at least make an effort to take a look at what's going on there. Maybe ask some of your patients to go and review you on some of these sites. Maybe respond to reviews that might have been a little bit negative on some of these sites. Maybe there was an error in a review, and maybe you can even contact the site and say, look, that was not a correct review. I think that one should come down. And it can't be just that you don't like the review. It has to be something that's really a factual error. And so all of these possibilities are there, but the way to prioritize it, because as you say, there's a slew of these sites out there, is to look and see which ones are actually coming up in search. They're the ones who are the most popular. They're the ones that are going to be in front of your prospective patient when they're searching, so they're the ones to go after first.
And Mike, once again, you're going to be elaborating on that in your presentation?
Oh, for sure. All of the things that we touched on today, these are all things that we'll spend time on in the digital marketing module, because these are the critical, practical things about marketing for dentists. It isn't important for you as dentists to really get some kind of unbelievably deep understanding of theoretical marketing. You don't need theoretical marketing. You need practical marketing that's going to bring new patients to you. And so we're going to walk through these things step by step, and you're going to be thinking about what is it that your patient is doing when they're looking for a new dentist, and how can you be there at each of those steps.
Mike, thank you very much. Another question is, will participants receive continuing education credits when partaking of this mini MBA program? The answer is yes. The New Jersey State Board of Dentistry has approved the mini MBA for dentists for 7 continuing education credits in the practice management category. So we do cover that. There's another question. What particular dates are the seminars offered? Which Saturdays, which Wednesdays? The answer is if you go to our website, which is cmd.rutgers.edu/dentist, and I have a spot which will show you that, and you click on details, it will have all the dates, it will have all the fees, and have all the information that you need. We just have time for one more question, and Mike, I think you answered it, but could you review again? Will you be in your seminar helping dentists be able to ask the right questions of vendors, understanding that the dentists aren't internet experts, and they're, of course, deluged by vendors who say they can do this and that. Will you be giving them guidelines on how to select the best vendor for themselves?
Yes, there are a number of things that are really important when it comes to selecting a vendor who will help you with marketing. And so a lot of it depends on what your budget is. A lot of it depends on what your level of sophistication is. So the more you can learn yourself, you have the opportunity possibly to do some of it yourself, or you have the possibility of hiring less expensive people to be able to help you do it if you know a little bit about how to direct them. If that's not really where your skills lie, and you'd really rather bring someone in who's in charge of this and have them handle it all for you, then there's a series of questions that we can go through that will help you understand how to evaluate whether people have the skills that you're looking for, and how to understand whether you can trust them, how to understand whether they have been successful with other dental practices in the past. There's a set of things that you can go through that let you evaluate what their expertise is. And we also show you some techniques to help you understand how you can spot someone who maybe isn't operating with the highest ethical standards in some areas. These are really important questions for dentists, because what your vendor does reflects on you, and you can't afford to have somebody who's cutting corners and actually not operating with the high ethics that you bring to your practice in every other way.
Well, Mike, this is fabulous, and we really appreciate your enlightening on these different facets of digital marketing. The time now is 12:30, and we allocated a half hour for the program, so that's all the time we have for today. If you see on the screen my email address, and I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions, you can email me. You see the website, cmd.rutgers.edu/dentist, which has more information. And as we mentioned earlier, we will email to each of you a web link of this recording, and you can listen to it again, and please do share it with others. From Rutgers Business School, this is Leon Fraser. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.